Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to another episode of News Dose where I give you all of the latest news in the gaming industry. And today was a big one for both Half-Life fans and Pokemon fans. Not only did we learn that Pokemon Sword and Shield is a massive success, we also got to see our first trailer of Half-Life Alyx, and wow, does that game look good. So we're going to talk about that. Also, we got a few release dates, and there is a rumor floating around about the next Crash Bandicoot game and what you can come to expect from it. And if you like the Insane Trilogy or the original Crash games, you may want to stay tuned for that as well. But first, let's talk about Half-Life Alyx, because a few days ago when Valve first announced they were making a Half-Life game, people were kind of cautious about it, and mainly because, yes, it is a virtual reality game. And a lot of people just thought it was going to be some kind of cheap knockoff or a cash grab of some sorts. Well, everybody, we can officially alleviate all of those worries because this game looks fantastic. And really, at first glance, you could be fooled into thinking this is some big AAA game for PC or consoles, and the only thing that kind of signifies that it isn't is the floating hands, which is kind of a staple in VR games by this point. Really though, you don't actually notice it all that much in VR games because they're just so immersive. I mean, VR is more immersive than your standard games. And the thing is, Half-Life Alyx really seems to be taking that next step in virtual reality where it has these really high production values because you don't see that nearly enough as you should in VR games. Earlier this year we saw Sony kind of brag about Blood and Truth being the first big AAA VR game, which it was actually a really fun game. I definitely recommend going to check that out. But since then we have seen a few others like Stormland, developed by Insomniac Games, and then we had Asgard's Wrath for Oculus headsets. But even then, I think Half-Life Alyx may look better than all of them. Valve really seems to have went all out with Half-Life Alyx, and it shows. The thing is, it's such a beloved franchise, and I think when Valve decided to make this, they knew they needed to do it justice. It's just kind of been gone for a decade, and really Half-Life should not have been gone for this long. And that is what is really exciting about all of this, because Valve came out and said, Half-Life Alyx is not a side story, or it's not even an episodic game. It is the next part of the Half-Life story. It does take place before Half-Life 2, but they do recommend you play Half-Life 2 Episode 2 first, and they mention as you play you will learn why it's the next part of the story. So there it is, Half-Life is back, and it's back in a big way. Now I do want to mention availability because I do think that this may end up being a really big system seller for virtual reality headsets. So you may be wondering, what VR headsets actually works? And I understand because VR headsets are not cheap. I mean, if you're looking into getting a Valve Index, it's going to set you back $1,000. It's absurd really, and you may not be willing to pay that much for a VR headset, especially if you're only looking to play Half-Life on your VR headset, though I would recommend other VR games as well. But luckily there is a few more options. You can also go with the HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, Windows Mixed Reality headsets, or the Oculus Quest. One thing to keep in mind with the Oculus Quest though is you will need to get the Oculus Link alongside it, which is around $80, though there is cheaper options but maybe not as good. It's a cable that allows you to play the Quest on your PC, and it's in beta right now. One good thing about owning the Valve Index though is you will get Half-Life Alyx for free if you purchase the Index by the end of 2019. Now one last thing I do want to mention about Half-Life Alyx is it does have workshops so you can create user-generated content, which is fantastic, and it will be releasing March of 2020, so you don't even have to wait for that long. Oh, and by the way, Valve also thought about making a Portal virtual reality game, which kind of sounds amazing, though of course they will have to find a way to not make people sick in it first. Regardless, I hope you're excited for Half-Life. We only had to wait for more than a decade, but let me know what you think about Half-Life Alyx in the comments below. Now Pokemon also had a really big day because the Pokemon Company released some good old fun numbers on how much Sword and Shield sold, and you know that boycott Pokemon Sword and Shield stuff that has been going on? well, it didn't really seem to work out all that well because Sword and Shield has sold through more than 6 million copies and has become the fastest selling Nintendo game ever. And no, you didn't hear that wrong. Sword and Shield is not just the fastest selling Pokemon game, but it's the fastest selling Nintendo game ever. That is insane, and really goes to show you the power of Pokemon. I've been incredibly addicted to Pokemon the last week myself, and it's a lot of fun, I must say. I'm loving all of the quality of life improvements they've made to it, and then the wild area is just so much fun to explore. You get to see all these rare Pokemon just roaming the world, you get to do raids for hidden abilities, and yeah, I'm liking the game a lot. So I'm happy that the game has sold so well personally. Do I think they could improve certain things? Sure, why not? I'd like to see them add a difficulty setting myself, but it really hasn't stopped me from enjoying the game. What about you though? Have you been enjoying Pokemon Sword and Shield? Or no? Let me know in the comments below. In other news, a Crash Bandicoot rumor has been floating around and how Activision is developing a new Crash Bandicoot game. Now, that part isn't really all that surprising, considering I think they said that back when they released the Insane Trilogy, which was super successful. But this next part is what I found to be so interesting. The game apparently is similar to Naughty Dog Crash Bandicoot games, which is a big sigh of relief. Crash had a few releases after the main trilogy, but they weren't really received all that well. The new Crash will also feature an overworld similar to Super Mario Bros. 3, each with different settings, and you can also play as Coco and even Cortex on certain levels. So yeah, it seems they decided to stick with Crash Bandicoot's roots, rather than just trying to change up the formula entirely, but they're looking to make their own improvements as well. I personally hope they still make it a challenging game myself, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Do remember that this is just a rumor now, and this may not actually happen, but I thought I would at least talk about it. Personally, I hope it's true. Now the last thing I want to talk about is a few release dates, as we got 2 announcements today on this front. The first game is Alien Isolation for the Nintendo Switch, which will be releasing on December 5th. I actually played this game when it launched, and it's actually a really good game, especially if you like old Alien movies, because it is very faithful to the Alien franchise. I'm not sure how it will run on the Nintendo Switch yet, but I'm very hopeful, as the game deserves the best. And only one day after Alien Isolation releases, you have Ancestors: The Humankind Odyssey, which will be releasing on the PlayStation 4 December 6th. I haven't played this one myself, but it wasn't received all that well, I believe, but hopefully PlayStation fans will enjoy it. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that bell notification and subscribe button. Peace out.